Okay, let's continue with where we left off sa ato discussion sa lecture 1, sa part 1. So let's consider this problem. We have a sphere and a charge. So you have, in this problem, you have a conducting sphere. Kani siya, kaning sa color blue nga outline. And a distance s from the origin of this sphere, a conducting grounded sphere of radius big R, is your charge Q. Tara, charge Q. Kani. So because of the setup, so maka-predict na mo nga, because of the presence of this charge Q, it will create or it will induce a charge on its surface. Okay? So, kasi kani nga problem di ay is dili na applicable ang uh, Gauss's law and the Coulomb's law because your charge distribution rho is or sigma is unknown. Unknown na siya. What is actually given or are given are just the following. Ang potential nimo sa surface, because since it is a conducting and grounded sphere, so the potential is zero along the contour sa imong surface. And ako'y charge Q of located at a distance s from the origin of the sphere of radius r. So more na siyang given. And then we are asked to find the potential everywhere. What could be the potential of this system inside the sphere maybe or outside, anywhere unsa ka ang iyang potential. And then we should be able to find the induced surface charge on the sphere as a function of Q and integrate this to get the total induced charge. Ana naman na ang total charge is sigma dA once you get your sigma or the induced surface charge. And then lastly, we will be able to calculate the electrostatic potential energy of this configuration. So unsa ka ang energy sa kaning system, sa kaning configuration. Okay? So let's solve first the question number 1, which is find the potential everywhere. Okay. So ang first thing buhaton is to find for the okay, ato ang method nga gamiton ani di ay is a method of images. So, method of images. So, kailangan ta magbutang diri og Q prime in such a way nga ang total potential niya along the surface is 0. Okay? So, look for that position. So, unsa dapat ang position diha? This is Q prime. In such a way nga ang distance ni ana is Z prime. Okay? Z prime na siya. From this one, from the origin. So, Z prime na siya. So, to get Z prime, so let's have a look at this. Atong i-calculate unsa kaha ang yes, we know unsay given man nga ang potential dira at P, let's say at P, ang potential ni ana is 0. And then another thing is kuha na punta diri kay masayin man siya makuha kay if inline ka you can get the distance. So later on ato na issue. So let's try to calculate look for the expression sa imong potential at point P. We know ang potential ana niya of course 0. Okay, conducting ano man na siya, grounded conducting sphere. But the expression is actually a contribution niya sa Q prime o Q. Okay, ang sum sa duha, it should give you 0. So you have 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught. And then Q over, so ang distance niya is the whole thing. So, kani siya. Kani unsa ang distance niya, unsa ni siya nga distance. Okay? So we can actually get that by subtracting lang the total S minus sa kani, which is unsa ni siya. This is just R. So S minus R plus 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught Q prime over, ang Q prime pod is just, ano naman na, kanya siya nga distance. Kani, sa i-erase. So, ang Q prime, ay, balik na. Nato Q prime diri, and then this is Z prime. Okay. So, ang distance sa Q prime to point P is just, imo siya i-subtract. We have katong radius R minus Z prime. Okay. And this can be rewritten as, since 0 man na siya, so you get Q prime over R minus Z prime equals negative Q, so mag-cancel ni siya, the same raman na, Q over S minus R, so mahimo siyang Q prime equals, cross multiply lang siya, so we have negative Q S minus R times R minus Z prime. Okay, so we need to get Z prime, so we need another equation para makuha na siya, so we will get BQ, so tadiri ang Q, kana siya. So, inline gihapon siya sa kaning axis. Okay? So, 0 gihapon na siya. Then, ang contribution niya is both sa Q and Q prime. So, we have 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught. Q over, so this time around, ang imong distance sa Q padulong sa, gikan sa small q padulong sa point Q is just the sum of these two distance, S plus R. So, it is easy to see nga mao na siya ang iyang relation. And then, sa Q prime is just R plus Z prime, right? And since equated man na siya to 0, tara, we can rewrite that as, we have Q prime over R plus Z prime equals, mag-cancel na po na siya, negative Q over S plus R. And we will get Q prime equals negative Q over S plus R times R plus Z prime. Okay, that's correct. Next is we equate the two. Tara, ito nang i-equate ang duha. So we will get negative Q prime. So mawala na niya ang negative kay puros pa negative. Q prime over S minus R ato na sa ibutang. We have R minus Z prime equals, kanina po, so we have negative Q over S plus R plus Z prime. Okay? So mag-cancel ang negative Q prime, cancel ang negative Q prime. Then you do the cross multiplication, you get R minus Z prime times S plus R equals S minus R times R plus Z prime. Tama? Cross multiply naman na. And then, ako siya i-distribute. So you get R S minus R squared. Oh, this is plus R squared minus S Z prime minus R Z prime equals, sa right hand side po sa equation, ato i-distribute. So we have SR plus SZ prime minus R squared minus R Z prime. So, masimplify man na siya because mag-cancel ang mga parehas of term. Like, this one, mag-cancel ni siya ani. Okay? And then, kani po siya mag-cancel. So we are left with sz prime and r squared. So kaning sz prime, tara, pareho man na sila. So ako siya ibalhin sa pikas, I will, ug ang r squared pod, balhin sa pikas, we will get 2sz prime equals 2r squared. So cancel ang 2. I will get z prime equals r squared over s. Okay? So muna ako ang z prime. Okay. So my z prime is just r squared over s. And then from z prime, I can now get q prime. Okay? Using this equation, kani q prime. So q prime is therefore negative q over s plus r. Then r plus, ang z prime nimo, mo na ni siya nga is na expression. So we have r squared plus, r squared over s. And then I have negative q over s plus r. I can take out r. Okay, common mo na siya. So I have 1 plus r over s. And then, pwede mo na siya ma-simplify kaning r of 1 plus r over s. I can get negative q over s plus r and r. So, common ang s. I have s plus r. Okay? Then, kani siya mag-cancel ni. Cancel sa ubos, cancel. So that q prime becomes negative q r over s. Okay? So, punta na akong q prime. So, I have now my expression for the q prime because na-determine man ako daan ang position kung asa siya. Okay? Tara ang z prime. So, nasa graph, nasa figure. And then my q prime is given by this expression. Muna ang q prime. So, there's one way to check if sakto ba ni atong gipang calculate, sakto ba ni q prime. That is, kwanta mag-create lahi nga. So, I want to check if at this point, kung given nga kana ang q prime, dapat ang imuhang potential diha is 0 gihapon because conducting sphere man na siya. Anywhere sa imong surface, sa imong conducting sphere is potential niya is 0. So let's do that. So muna ni siya ang iyahang imuhang tara. Okay. So let's consider now the system nga naa ko'y point P prime. Okay? So at point P prime, my potential there should be 0. And ang distance niya from Q is D. And then ang distance niya from Q prime is D prime. Okay. So how do we determine the D? We'll just have to use the law of cosine. So ang D nimo is just the square root of, so we have r squared plus s squared minus 2rs cosine theta. Okay? Mao na ang imuhang law of cosine. And then sa d prime po, take a look at the d prime sa graph or sa figure, mao po din ako ang equation. I have r squared plus z prime squared minus 2r z prime cosine theta. Now, naman ko expression sa katong z prime, di ba? Z prime is, if you can recall, atong z prime is r squared over s. So, ato siyang i-substitute diha sa sulod. So, we have r squared plus r to the fourth over s squared minus 2 2r, this is 2r, and then your z prime is just r squared over s cosine theta. So that's your d prime. Okay, d prime. Ito na siyang i-alin sa taas. Okay. So I have my d and the d prime. So we can now calculate the potential at Vp prime. So that would be 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught. That is simply writing it q over d plus q prime over d prime. Then imo siya i-substitute ang d prime of d. I have q and then square root of this whole expression. Then I have plus. So your q prime, so atong q prime is ano man, di ba? It's negative q r over s. So this is negative q r over s over, yeah, okay. Then we can simplify that. This is still q over the square root of this. So this is now minus. So minus q, and then akong ginaog, if ako siya inaog siya sa ubos, I have s over r. Right? Mabali naman na siya. Then I have r squared plus r to the fourth over s squared minus 2r r squared over s cosine theta. Now I can further simplify this if ang kaning s over r, ako siyang isulod sa square root. Okay, how do I do that? Ako na siyang isulod ha sa square root ang s over r. So ang s over r, mahimo na siyang s squared over r squared. Tapos i-multiply na siya ang whole thing. Okay, I hope na follow na siya. And then that s squared over r squared, mo siya i-distribute sa sulod. So I will get I'll just have to copy this expression. Minus q. Okay? So if i-multiply na ko na siyang s squared over r squared sa kaning each term sa imong square root, so I will get s squared plus r squared minus 2rs cosine theta. Now take a look. This one and this one, kay pareha siya. So that will give you the potential at P prime is 0. So tama siya. So tama ito ang kaning definition kani siya. Okay? Now the next question is, how do we get then the potential anywhere? Okay? So magamit na siya. Let me erase this one. So i-replay lang to ninyo ang katong part sa video if you want to review katong mga kani atong gipang solve nga kani nga mga expression. Okay? So to get the potential anywhere sa imong system, so I'll just have to look for kani r theta p. So unsa na siya? So little naman ang imuhang usabon because if I want to say I want to get the potential at here at this point, so mag-draw ra kog line diha, right? Oh, ako na lang i-erase that. Ako siyang i-color red. So mag-draw ra kog line diha, that would be my small r, and then that would be a distance d, right? And then this would be the same gihapon, small s. So and also sa q prime, so mag-draw po ko diha. This would be d prime. Okay? And then, kani po, it's just a, kani siya. Yeah, this is d prime. So this would be d. So my new d would be like this. Instead of a big R, parehaan, di ba? So I have a small r squared plus s squared minus 2rs cosine theta. And my d prime would be, you might guess, it's just a small r gihapon, r squared plus z prime squared minus 2r z prime cosine theta. Okay? I hope na ka-follow ra. And since I have my expression for z prime, which is r squared over s, if I substitute that here, I will get r squared plus r squared over s minus 2r r squared over s cosine theta. Okay, that would be my d prime and my new d. So the potential now anywhere or everywhere is given by this. 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught q over d plus q prime over d prime. So this would be this would be, so you have q over square root of r squared plus s squared minus 2rs cosine theta plus, so ang q prime is negative q r over s, right? Then I have r squared plus r to the fourth over s squared. So this is kani sa taas 4 ni siya, and this is square. Okay, gi-square man mo ang z prime. So I have minus 2r, then I have r squared over s cosine theta. Okay. So let me erase lang sa kani. And I'll move this sa taas. Sorry. Okay. Sorry about this. Oh, why di na ako siya ma-move? Wait lang, class ha. there. So, so we can simplify this. Again, the same gihapon ng pag-simplify ani is this whole thing, ako siya inaog, and then isulod na ako siya sa square root. So I will now have q over r squared plus s squared minus 2rs cosine theta. So minus q, and then this would be s squared over r squared times, ginaog na ako siya sa ubos, katong kanisiya. So I have r squared plus r to the fourth over s squared minus 2r r squared over s cosine theta. Okay, and then we can now simplify this expression to just this. Theta minus q. So this becomes so mo na siya i-simplify later on mo na yung makuha. Kamo na lay explore ani basta kay ang result nga would be this. Ang you have to do it yourself ang details ani pag-distribute, but this will be the result to keep you guided. Okay, so mo na siya ang ato ang final form sa ato ang potential anywhere given this system, okay, of a charge and a conducting sphere. So mo na siya ang potential. Next question would be unsa kaha ang ma-induce nga surface charge and total charge sa imong system, right? So na kay ma-induce nga charge ato, and the formula actually to get the induced surface charge, let me insert sa katong picture para natay guide. Okay, so we can look for the induced surface charge by having this formula katong taken from the previous discussion nato or chapter. We have sigma equals negative epsilon naught, and then partial of V or the potential with respect to R, where R is evaluated sa interface, meaning naasa dinhi nga part. Okay? So this is actually the formula sa katong discontinuity sa imong gradient of V. Okay? So because of this formula, makuha na to ang imuhang sigma or the surface induced or the induced surface charge density. Okay, naa naman tayo expression sa potential, so you can easily calculate it using this one. So you have partial of R, tapos ang imuhang potential is given by this 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught. Okay, we have Q over, taas gid siyang equation. But it's just purely mechanical. Ang idea lang is simple because you just have to take the derivative. And master naman kayo mo sa mga pagkuha og derivative, including evaluating the integrals, right? Ana. So you just have to take the derivative of that with respect to R. So I'll just leave to you the details in taking the derivative of this expression. Basta ang result niya would be this. So the final result would be of this form. Negative Q over 4 pi R s squared minus r squared plus s squared minus 2rs cosine theta to the 3 half. Okay, so muna siya ang iyang final form. Okay. And then, you can easily get the total charge Q by just integrating naman dA. Sigma, you have r squared sine theta d theta d phi. Okay, so from 0 to 2 pi and then 0 to pi. Ang 0 to 2 pi nimo is limit na siya sa imong phi ka. Ang 0 to pi is mo siya sa theta. Then if you substitute the expression for your sigma and then you evaluate the integral, you should be able to get, okay, actually maka-predict na mo sa dapat total charge Q, which is actually one we get kaganina. Okay, muna siya ang katong image, di ba? Actually, muna siya ang katong, it's like, ang Z prime, katong Q prime, actually. This is the Q prime. If you can recall, kaganina. And then if you want to get let's look. Tara, muna siya ang solution. Okay, this is for the induced surface charge and then the total charge Q after integrating. And then this one is katong energy. So you should be able to get this by using the formula F dot dl, where F is katong force of attraction between the image and the real charge, which is given by this Q prime, right? Then ang distance between the two, which is just S minus Z prime square. Should be able to simplify this, tapos nata expression sa Q prime, substitute nimo, tapos ang Z prime nimo is nasa the expression, right? Where Q prime is negative Q R over S, tapos ang Z prime is R squared over S. Substitute nimo, you get F, and then isubstitute mo ang F sa imong W, to evaluate the integral, should be able to get this. Okay? So, this is reserved for the next video na po, another example on the method of images.